So the other thing, if you've been in any fundraising workshop ever in your entire life, you know they're going to say the purpose of fundraising is to build relationships. And I remember when I first heard this, I thought, oh, that's great. Yeah, build relationships. That's a super good idea. And I went back to my office, and then I was like, what does that even mean? Okay, so it seems like it's one of those things that seems like a good idea, and then you can't figure out what it means. So I'm going to try to kind of break it down for you a little bit, and I want you to think in your own organization, how are you doing this already? What are you doing well already? And what could you do a little bit better? And what could you just start doing? So the first thing in building a relationship is for people to know the name of your organization. And many, many times, this is the reason why people don't give to you, they never heard of you, right? I work in a lot of social justice organizations, and they'll be with people and they'll be like, they're all, well, we do this social justice work and a lot of people are against us. And I'm like, maybe people are against you, but the fact is they never heard of you. They don't know if they're against you or for you. You so flatter yourself that people are even thinking about you, okay? So the first thing is to really, and this is because of technology now we can do this, to invite people to be on your list and to create an e-list. This is very different from the old days where we had, when everyone's on a mailing list and each piece of mail costs money, so you had to kind of think how many people do you want on your mailing list. But now with email, each additional person is a minute cost. It's the cost of entering the data and so on. And if you use MailChimp or something, you do pay a little bit more per name, but it's so infinitesimal. So bring people on your list and build that list. And as you do that, and kind of tell them a little bit about it, and then invite people to give. So the first gift is very different from the second or third or 15th gift. People make that first gift almost entirely out of emotion. Oh my goodness, here, right? Or impulse, okay? They often forget within a few hours that they even made the gift. They certainly forget the name of the organization. So what's the most important thing when you get a first gift to do? What do you want to do within 72 hours of getting that gift? Yeah. Very good. We say in fundraising, thank before you bank, right? Which now, because of credit cards, is a little hard, but in the days of checks, that was possible. But get that thank you note out. Now, here's another thing about thank you notes. Make it personal. I see people with these wonderful appeals, unbelievable pictures, and an appeal that would melt a stone. Then you send in your $50, and then you get back this thank you note. I got one the other day, actually, from a little group. This is the example of how not to do a thank you note. So, first of all, it's a Xeroxed form, which is okay because it's kind of a grassrootsy group, but it says dear and then blank, or no, dear friend, it says, dear friend. And friend is crossed out, and my name is written in, but apparently I'm not a friend, so. Dear not friend, thank you so much for your gift of, and there's a little space to write the amount. And you have received no goods or services for your donation. Sincerely, and then the name of the executive director. So the thing is, we are required by law to say that you receive no goods or services for your donation. But any normal person with common sense writes that in the tiniest little type at the complete bottom of the letter and uses the rest of the letter to kind of say that you got. So basically it was like, dear not friend, thank you for your gift for which you received nothing. Okay, so this does not completely make me want to give again. Okay, so thank you notes need to have something very specific. Just today I learned, you'll be pleased to know, your gift was put right to work with our building our new cat shelter. And they need to change. The content of the thank you note needs to change every couple months, right? Now, I just saw that look. Don't think I'm not watching you. So some of you are like, really? Yeah, like I don't have already enough to do. Here's the thing. You don't have to be the one that changes the content. You can have somebody on your board. I'm working with a board right now, so journalist as one of the board members, a really good person, very committed, but hates asking for money, is just going to absolutely die if she has to ask for money. So her entire job, because you can do a lot about fundraising without asking for money, her entire job is to change the content of the thank you notes. Well, she's a good writer, so every couple months she figures out new content, and she also does all the social media. She posts stuff on Facebook, and she posts stuff on Instagram and so on, and nobody else wants to do that, and she does it with great joy. So anytime I'm saying something, you should do this, I don't mean you personally, I mean you should think of somebody who should do it, and see if you can spread that work out a little bit, okay? So that's your first gift. Only about 20-30% of people who make one gift will ever make a second gift. Right? So don't be discouraged if you get a lot of first gifts and people don't renew. That's okay. That's perfectly normal. But then, because that's a very delicate balance there. That person doesn't really know you. They maybe gave who knows why. But that second gift is very, very important. So now we want to ask people to engage with us maybe. And just, now with technology, this is really kind of an easy thing to do. Can you post this on Facebook? Can you retweet this? I mean, it's sort of easy kind of stuff to do. Some of you have volunteer opportunities. And just because someone doesn't show up to volunteer doesn't mean they weren't happy to be asked to volunteer. In other words, you're trying to move away from this transaction. Every time you hear from me, it will be asking for money. Okay? We don't want that. We really want the donors to think, I don't know what they're going to say when they're in touch with me. It could be all kinds of things. Okay? And then we begin to ask people to give over and over. I think you need to ask people on your list, unless you have some reason not to. You can ask people for money on your list probably four times a year. And some of you are like, oh my God. But here's the thing, okay? Let's take the example I used earlier. I get an appeal from one of your organizations, but I just had to have new tires put on my car, so I can't do it. I'm just like out of money. But 2 months later, I got my tax refund. Then I can do it. But see, if you wait a whole year, and if you only ask for money once a year, from the donor's point of view, you don't have much going on. Because remember, every request you make, you have to think of yourself as what percent of requests are you in the total number of requests this person is getting. So some of you may belong to the big national humane organizations. How often do they ask? Every month, right? Right? I think that may be a little bit too much. But they do, and they have evidence. I can't criticize them because they're constantly studying and they have evidence that works. So here's my group asking once a year. Here's the donor gives to 5 to 10 other animal welfare, humane organizations. Some of those are asking 12 times a year, some 6 times a year, some 5 times. My one thing is a tiny percent of what they're getting. They're going to forget me. So I need to ratchet up my volume. I can also do that with e-newsletters. I can do it with other kinds of correspondence. What we're trying to move to, trying to get as many people on our list as we can, but the main thing we're trying to move to from a strictly fundraising point of view is to get a handful of people, maybe more than a handful I hope, who give us thoughtfully. That is, they sit, when they see our appeal, or they hear from us by phone, or they come to our organization, they sit and think, how much could I give? How much could I give? And the question we want to put in front of all our donors, I'm going to tell you the question very straightforwardly, and we're not going to put it in front of them quite this boldly because it would be rude, but this is what we really want to know. Is the amount you are giving to us, is it the right amount relative to how much you can afford and how much you care about what we do? Is it the right amount? And I think if you look at all the donations you make, you sometimes will see organizations and you're like, I give that group a lot that I care a little bit, and I give this group that I care a lot about not that much. And it's just because of habit. And we're trying to break that habit. And what we want to do, of course, is be one of the top 3 or 4 organizations in some of our donors' minds. Okay? How many of you have personal conversations with, let's say 10% of your donors? Oh, that's great. Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Because some of our larger individual donors are they care very much about our cause, and we've come into contact with them through stories of individual animals. So when maybe something similar comes up, we'll just share the story, a success story maybe.
Great.
Or, like I'm going out to lunch with somebody on Monday just for lunch, but just trying to keep in touch in that way and give them updates on what's happening, not necessarily asking all the time, but just updating on progress.
That is so important. It's a relationship, right? You know how tired you get sometimes if you have a friend who mainly you see them when they want you to babysit or borrow your car, right? I mean, at a certain point you think, really? Let's just, yeah. So that kind of making it a full relationship, a full friendship. You're also going to find, how many of you, well, you all have volunteers, I assume. I'm going to go off that assumption. How many of you would say that 90% of your volunteers are also donors, financial donors? Okay, so here's the thing, those of you who have your hands down. Your volunteers, so when I told you 7 out of 10 people give away money, more people give away money than volunteer, but 95% of volunteers give away money. So your volunteers who don't give you money are giving their money somewhere else. And they're not giving you money, I'm willing to bet, in 8 out of 10 cases because you didn't ask them. And I'm also willing to bet the reason you didn't ask them is because you said, well, they're already giving so much time, right? And we don't want to be rude, right? But whose lane are you in? Their lane, okay? They can decide, there are people in the world like this. I give time here, I give money here. They have this separation. But many, many people have no separation. They like where they give time, they also give money, right? And some of your biggest donors, and I bet a lot of this is true for a lot of you, some of your biggest donors will also be your biggest volunteers, or have been some of your biggest volunteers. So ask your volunteers for money. When you ask your volunteers for money, be very, very clear about this. You know, we would love you to, you know, as you can imagine, we can't run without the time of our volunteers. Without time, this whole place shuts down. There's nothing. But there are some things in what we do that can only be done with money, like food and litter and, you know, equipment and things like that. So we value your time above all things. But those of you who can also share with us some money, we invite you to do that. And ideally, that note is written by a volunteer. I was realizing as I volunteered that there are some things here that can only be done with money. And so I decided I would give a little money as well. Time is, I'm in fundraising, right? But I want to say this, time is our most precious resource. It is absolutely more valuable than money. And it is a non-renewable resource. The few people I'm looking around here of, like me, have crossed over 60, okay? In fact, I've way crossed over 60. But when you cross 60, you begin to realize, you know what? I am truly, even if I live a long time, not going to live as long as I have lived. Time is really getting shorter, and it is really running out, okay? So, and this is true for all of us. We spend a day doing something, we never get that day back. You spend $25 or $50 or even $1,000, you get that money back. You'll earn it again, you'll find it again. I mean, it's not, money is a renewable resource. So people sometimes say to me, time is money. Time is money is one of the great lies of our country. Time and money have as much in common as oranges and asphalt. And the proof of that is, first of all, we all have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in our day. Every single person, Bill Gates, down to homeless people, right? The second proof of that, we have vastly unequal amounts of money. And getting more vast every day. The other proof of that is most people, I've never met a person who was afraid to ask other people for time. Can you come to a meeting? If I say to you, your job, Jane, is to ask all those people in your row to come to a meeting on Wednesday, you'll just call and say the meeting is on Wednesday at 7:30, okay? So can you come? So let's say over here, what's your name right there? Louise. Let's say Louise can't come, okay? She just says, I can't come. She doesn't feel bad or good about it. She says, I can't come. Let me know what happened. The end. It's all very even. Jane doesn't come to the meeting and say, that Louise, such a tightwad with her time. Honestly, okay? Just like Louise couldn't come to the meeting. Very calm, right? But if I say, I don't know Jane really, but some person, if I say, your job is to ask all these people for $100, for most people that's a whole different thing, isn't it? And if Louise says, no, I can't give $100, it has a slightly more emotional deal than time. So time is not money. And what's interesting is we're willing to waste our most precious non-renewable resource. But we're much more careful about money. So really separate those in your mind. They're very, very different things. And most people can show up with time and with money. And some people can only show up with money, and some people can only show up with time. But our job is to invite people to show up with everything they possibly can. And their job is to say, I can do this and not that. Does that make sense? All right, so I think a bunch of you just discovered a whole new world of people that you can ask for money. Any questions about this building relationships? Okay, so I'm going to just take 2 minutes. This is a very brief, oh yes, I'm sorry, way in the back.
I was just wondering if you recommend any particular CRMs for managing prospects and converting into donors.
Okay, very good question. Do I recommend any particular CRMs or databases, we used to call them, for managing donors? There are so many, and honestly, I don't keep up with them because there are hundreds. So I would be a little loath to recommend them, but I would say this: there are a lot that are designed that are very low cost or sometimes just about free. They don't do a lot, but what they do very well. And I would get one. If I were most of you, I would get one of those. Do not buy an expensive database that can do all kind of things. You will never use it, and it's full power. You'll pay a fortune for it. Okay, so and you can always go from a cheaper one. It's sort of like getting a car. If you were lucky enough to have a car in high school, you can go, you get a clunker. Most people don't get a new car. You get a clunker, and you trade it in for a better clunker, and later, sometime, you get a new car. So that's what you want to think about with your database. Mm-hmm.
There's an organization called TechSoup, and if you go online, if you're a nonprofit, they have programs that you can get at either no cost or really, really low cost.
Yeah, TechSoup. It's called TechSoup. TechSoup, all one word, TechSoup.org. And that's a very good, thank you for saying that. They also have a report of all the databases. It's a spreadsheet, and it tells what they do. So if you want to track volunteer hours, let's say part of a grant, sometimes it's tracking volunteer hours. If you have an event, like a big event every year, you can have a module for that. And they'll tell you what the costs are, what the hidden costs are. There's another organization called N10, N-T-E-N, N10.org, and they also have a report on CRMs and databases. And it's just the letters, N-T-E-N.org. And they have a report on databases and CRMs, and they keep that up pretty well. And the other thing about TechSoup, what you were saying, is when you belong to TechSoup, which I don't think costs any money, right? I think it's free, you get a discount on some of the databases. Yeah, really, it's very good, okay? And it's been vetted by other people. Does anybody, let's just kind of pause though for a minute, because it's a very good question you asked. Does anybody have a database that they say, or a CRM, I really like this one? Yeah, what's yours? Bloomerang, okay. That's one of the newer ones, and a lot of people really like it. Bloomerang. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, Salesforce is very interesting. So Salesforce is free, actually, but it's not free because the only way you could possibly understand it is to hire a Salesforce consultant. Okay, so it's a very powerful database. I think for some of you a little bit bigger. It's very good. It's very state-of-the-art. One of the things that's true about Salesforce is it won't, sometimes now because databases are such a big deal, people develop them and then they sell them. And there's a big company called Blackbaud. A lot of you see their reports, B-L-A-C-K-B-A-U-D, Blackbaud. And they do a lot of good stuff. And they have a database called Razor's Edge. And that's what universities and hospitals and so on use. And they buy these databases and then they put them out of business. And then they say to you, for only $10,000, you can upgrade to Razor's Edge. And so I would say walk away, don't go near that program because it does way more than you need it to do. It's not as good as they think it is. So anyone have a database that they would say run and do not walk from this one? Okay, very good. Thank you. You agree with me? Yeah. Yeah. Some of you are small enough. How many of you have under 4,000 donors? Yeah, under 4,000, under 1,000. Okay, so you're small enough that you could actually probably for a while manage just with an Excel spreadsheet. An Excel spreadsheet is not a database, just to be clear, but it's an amazing kind of thing. You do have to keep track of your donors, though. Very, very important. So thank you for that question. Any other questions? Okay, so let's look at, oh, sorry.
I was talking to someone The other day, we do a lot of yard sales, and they were having a yard sale, and I was asking them for their leftovers. And I was explaining what we do. We're spay and neuter. And I was telling the man that we help people that can't afford to spay and neuter their animal. And he looked at me and said, oh, well, then they should just not have a pet, and was really rude. So what do you do with the donor, potential donor, in that position?
Well, they're not a potential donor, right? I mean, that's the thing I would recognize.
Okay.
Somebody who thinks that only the deserving people who can afford to spay and neuter their pets should have pets is probably not what I would really say is my biggest donor. On the other hand, you're right there with him, right? And you've asked him for this thing. So what is a response to that? That's a fairly, it's sort of like how people say, well, if you can't afford, to send your children to college, you shouldn't have children, right? I mean, people do say these kind of mean things. So a response back would what would be some responses to that? They shouldn't have pets. That may be true, but the reality is I would try to I a lot of times try to sidestep, because if I run up right into it, it's just we're going to be in a fight. He's going to get in his trench. So I think to say that, you may be right, I don't know, but I can tell you this: people have pets, and they do spay and neuter them. And the other thing that we know is that many people who would really care for a pet and would take one and would be a very good pet owner won't, because they're afraid the pet will have pets. Like if I take in one cat, I'm willing to have a cat. But if I think I'm going to have 20 cats at the end of the year, I'm not willing to have a cat, right? So this also really opens up the number of homes, of really good homes. And also sometimes animals find us. We don't always adopt our animals. So, I appreciate your point of view, but I think what we're really thinking about is what the kindness, what is the kindest thing for the animal, and what gives the animal the best quality of life. And, I was wondering what you're going to do with your leftovers here. Okay, and just get back to message. The other thing sometimes, and we'll talk about this more this afternoon, but this is a very good question, is actually not to answer. This is a thing, silence is your friend, okay? And I have a slide a little bit later on, but I'll tell you it now. And it's something I've had to learn really the hard way. It says wait. Wait stands for, why am I talking? So somebody says something like that, and you're kind of stumped, like, what? Okay? Just nod your head, smiling. People do not know what they think. Honestly, many people don't. They say it, they hear it, and then they're like, oh, that sounded mean, okay? And then they modify. I remember one time talking to this guy. I was doing a big project with an organization where we were doing a lot of sex education in the high schools. And he said, and he had given money to a lot of good projects in the past, and he goes, I just think these young people should not be having sex. And I thought, okay, I'll tell them. That'll stop it right there. Let's put a note in their suggestion box. Okay. Honestly, I had no idea what to say, because I thought, yeah, all right, I kind of agree with you, but so what? So this is how I learned it, because I was so stumped by what to say. I was just nodding like this. So he hears himself, okay, and he hears how dumb that sounds, and he goes, but I guess since they are, that's where we have to start. I'm like, yeah. Dodge that one. So, good question. Right? So that's called in fundraising, we're going to talk more about this afternoon, you're a little ahead of me, but that's called in fundraising staying in a negotiating posture. Just thinking, is there some way I can redeem this? Let's look at this. These are the strategies we often use in fundraising, and people will always say to me, I'll say, what do you want for the time you put into fundraising? Because people call me all the time, well, you need to raise money. Well, what do you want for the time you're putting into fundraising? So what do you think most people say? Money, right? I mean, that makes sense, right? Money. But what else could we want from our fundraising that has the same purpose, that serves a really good purpose and promotes our fundraising that is not money? Like what? Like what objectives? Okay, so really talking about specific things, kind of educating people about that. What else?
Growing your
Contacts. Growing your contact list. Yeah. just growing that list. You have people now, because of, who will sign up to be on your email list who aren't quite ready to make a donation. What else could we want? Supplies. We could want stuff. In kind, right? And here's a little, I want to just go on a slight tangent. A funny thing I've noticed about some people, and some of you may be those people, they can, and it's fine, like may your tribe increase. They cannot ask for money. Honestly, to ask for money is so hard for them. But they can ask for things that cost money without batting an eye, right? And I'm like, fine, who cares? So I give them a list. Here, thing person, here are the things. Go get it. Okay, I pull all this stuff out of my budget that's stuff. And there are also people who prefer to give stuff, and particularly, I think, businesses. They will often prefer, like a stationery supply store, for example, they would rather give you reams of paper or toner cartridge than give you the money to buy that. It's easier for them. It's a better tax write-off, it's better. So, great. So you could want stuff. You could also want what somebody up here was saying, to just be in a relationship with people, to actually thank them, to make them feel welcome, to make them feel they're not just an ATM. So every time you sit down to do fundraising, you've got to say to yourself, what is it that we're trying to get by engaging in this strategy? But when what you want is money, I'm going to take you from most to least effective on this slide. So you can see the most effective strategy for money, getting money, is personal, face-to-face asking. And this is not random asking. This is where you go to a person who you know gives away money, so they're in the 70%. They care about your cause. And how do you know that? It's because you know them, or you know somebody who knows them, right? So I talked about Oprah Winfrey earlier. People always are using her as an example, Oprah Winfrey, and I'm like, she's great, right? We know what she cares about. We know she gives away a lot of money. She's extremely generous. But if we don't know her, she really is not that useful to us. Whereas Oprah Smith down the street, okay, who can't quite make the gift the size of Oprah Winfrey, but nevertheless, we do know her, and we could go visit her, okay? So when you know someone, you know they give away money, and you know they care about your cause, and you ask them for money in person, you have about a 50% chance you're going to get the money. And about 50% of the people you ask like that are going to give you less than what you asked for. So, let's do some math. Let's say I need one gift of $5,000. One gift of $5,000, a big gift. How many people, using this strategy, how many people am I going to have to identify and ask in order to be pretty sure that one of them will give me $5,000? 10 would be really conservative, because I would be bound to get it, right? There's a smaller number that I could go with. Well, 2 would be very riding on a wing and a prayer. So the number, but good, I like your attitude. So really the answer is 4, because 50% are going to say no, and 50% of the people that say yes are going to give me less than what I asked for. That's going to leave me with 1. Okay? Now, I'm just going to perseverate on this a little bit, because when I'm with people like you, I know I'm with a room full of smart people, and also a number of you in this room, I bet, are well-educated. Okay? That's often in nonprofits, we have a cross-section of people pretty well-educated. And here's the problem with being smart, and particularly the problem with being smart and well-educated, is you're not very good at fundraising. Oh, no. And here's why. Because when you're in about 3rd grade, okay, you start getting letter grades, right? And you get used to 90% and up as an A, and 80 to 89 is a B, right? And what's 50%? It's an F. Yeah, unless you went to one of those Quaker schools, we're all doing our personal best. But, some alternatives. But mostly if you went to regular public school or parochial school, 50% is a big red F. And the problem is you burn that into your brain as a child, and you spend then the rest of your life thinking 50% is an F. But I always say this to my students, that is only true in the academy. Once you leave the campus, 50% in life is phenomenal. It's unbelievable. It's fabulous. Where is 50% unbelievable? Where would it be just incredible? Baseball, right? I don't even think, has anyone ever even batted 500? I don't think so, huh? Right? If you're able to hit a ball 3 out of 10 times, you are a millionaire in baseball, right? Amazing, okay? What about a 50% off sale at your favorite store? Huge, right? I'm there, right? What about 50% return on investment? Probably illegal, but nevertheless, very attractive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
The mic. So I have a question in your slide there. Where do you think social media falls? Because today that's such a big ask, and today being Nevada's big give, everybody's doing that. Where do you think social falls in there?
It's under, it would be the same as email, social media. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in these big give days, if you were to really look at the volume of people that get asked for the volume of people who give, it would be less than 1%. But it's still good. I mean, it's still, it's easy, it's cheap. The word can get out, and you have people spreading the word for you very, very easily. So I'm a big fan of social media, but I don't flatter myself that that's where you're going to put. If you put all your energy there, you're not going to have that much money. The other thing about social media is it's all about marketing. It's that way that people hear about your group, right, and hear about it over and over and get to check it out. And then they may give you money some other way. So coming back to this 50%, I had a friend who actually said to me the other day, she goes, I realized I had the same chance of getting a major gift as staying married. Since we're in Nevada, I thought I'd share that. So that was kind of an amazing thing. So the thing that you have to walk around knowing is that when you get into serious fundraising, a lot of people are going to say no. And they're not necessarily going to say no, like straight up like that. They're going to be like, I'll get back to you. I got to talk to my husband. Oh, I don't think I got it. Can you send it again? Or they just don't return your call, right? So it's fine. So what? Are you dead? No. I mean, it's kind of, to me it's sort of like those of you who do TNR, I've done that a few times. How many cats of those really wily, feral cats do you really catch? If you set out thinking I'm going to catch 100% of them, you're just going to be so sad, right? There's one cat. She is just, and she just had another litter of kittens. And I'm like, I always catch her kittens, but she is unbelievable. And she manages it, even though really good cat carriers, she manages to get her paw in and pull the food out and snap, the carrier goes down. She's, I feel like she walks around like this. Okay. So we know that from animal. We can't save every animal. We do our very best. We can't tame every animal. We can't teach every dog good tricks. So we kind of know that, and we don't take it personally. So the same with people. Take your same view of animals and transfer it to people, and you'll be happy, okay, in terms of fundraising. So that's 50%. Look at that phone call, how that comes down. And that's really 100% because the phone, you have so little time on the phone. Phone time is very abbreviated. A 20-minute phone call is a long phone call, right? To say nothing of the fact that people really aren't on their phone so much anymore. We look at a personal letter or a personal email. This is personal where I only send it to you. I don't send the same thing to everybody else. We look at about a 10 to 15% response. Now, this is very sad news to shy board members because they will say, oh, I'm willing to do fundraising. And, I'll ask my friend Mary Jones, and I'm going to send her an email, though, because I don't want to call her and put her on the spot like that. So I'll just send her an email, but I'll never say anything about it, so that way she can either give or not. It's up to her. Very, very dignified. Okay, that's my story I make up in my mind. Oh, so dignified. Okay. So I send this really nice letter. Mary, I heard your kid got into University of Nevada, and blah, 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 and I'm raising money for this. Then I see Mary in the store. I run into her. I'm like, oh no. Okay, but she's right there, and I'm like, hi, Mary, and she's like, hi, Kim. Now, when she got my email, this is what happened. She looked at it. She didn't read all the way through it because she's a busy person. And she said, Kim is probably going to mention this to me, so I don't need to read it. So she deleted it. Okay? Now I see her in the store. So this is what she's thinking. This is her bubble. Cripes. I just saw your name. I just saw your name on something. I can't remember what. Oh, I hate my brain. Okay? And so she's standing like this. Okay, so I'm thinking, oh my God, she got my email and she's really mad about it. And that's why she has that weird expression. Oh no, this is a disaster. I'm going to have to move away forever to Patagonia. And I make up this whole, and then she stops, well, I can't remember where I saw it, so, Kim must be going to mention it. And then she kind of leans forward, and then she looks at my face and goes, oh my God, I think Kim is coming down with the flu. I cannot get sick, okay? So, bye, and we both run off, okay? So this is not our most successful encounter, right? And then later she goes home. Now, let's say she didn't delete my email. She opens up again, there it is, or let's say it was a snail mail. And she goes, you know what? Kim must have gotten the money she needed because she never mentioned it to me. And that's why that'll be that 10 or 15%. Again, can you see the value of staying in your lane? We are very, very creative people, and we make movies about other people and us, starring us as loser victim, okay, of the other person. All right, phone bank, when you call people you don't know, but you have some reason to think will give, you'll go 3 to 5%. I love phone banks. If I could do it right now, I'd put a phone in front of all of you in a list, because you learn so much from it. But here's the thing. When I do a phone bank, let's say I got a list here. And this is a bunch of people who I know care about animal welfare in one way or another. They've given to other groups. I'm going to call and ask them to join my group, and they're in my geographic area. I have their phone numbers. So I have 100 names here. And let's say it's 6 o'clock at night. I'm not going to call past 9. That's pushing it. So between 6 and 9, I'm going to try to burn through this 100 names. Before I type in one name, this is how my mind works. This is how you need to think for the rest of your life. I think in this list are 5 gifts, right? In this list are 5 donors. And all I'm doing, it's a treasure hunt. I'm just trying to find out who they are. So first person I call, I hate people like you. Okay, that would not be you. I'm going to report you to the do not call it. Okay. Mm-hmm. A number's been changed. Next person doesn't speak English. Next person puts me on hold for a minute. I mean, nothing bothers me because I am on a treasure hunt. Same thing when I'm going to ask friends. I make a list of 10 friends. These are my friends, people that I care about, I do stuff with. I think when I'm done, I will have at most, from this list, I will have at most 5 gifts, 50%. I will have at most 3 gifts of the size that I wanted, and then 2 others, but I will still have 10 friends. Very, very important that your mind works like that. If you go for a whole week at your work and nobody said no to you, it is simply a sign you have not asked enough people. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've got a list because I'm not good at asking. I'm pretty bad at it. And how would you start that conversation? Because you've got your list, you know what you're going to be saying. Can you give us an example of how you would start that conversation if it's not a friend, for example?
Okay, so what's the name of your group?
Urban Underdogs.
Urban Underdogs. So you find, am I going to kind of go out on a limb and say you find dogs running around the city who don't have homes? Is that what you do?
No, we actually provide support services to animals that are on the street.
Okay.
And we also do spay-neuter vaccines.
Perfect, okay. So I would say, I'd get on the phone. You're talking about this phone-a-thon, right? Okay, so I'd say, this is Kim Klein, okay, but, you should use your name. Works better. And I'm calling with Urban Underdogs, and we work with dogs that are roaming around on the street. We do a lot of stuff with them. Could I talk to you for just a minute about that? Now, if the person is actually interested in animals, they will have gotten this name, right? And they'll be like, for a minute, okay? Well, that's all I need. I really appreciate your time, okay? We see every day dogs running around the street. We provide a lot of support for them. We try to find homes for them, but we do a lot of, we take them to the vet. Many of them have fleas, they have ticks, they have other diseases. Sometimes they're simply lost, and that if they have a chip, we can return them to their owner. And tonight I'm calling all people like yourself who I know care about animals to see if you could help us with a donation. We particularly need to upgrade our mobile van, and that's going to cost us about $5,000. I wonder if that's something you could see your way clear to helping with $25, $50. See? So what's the person going to say? Yes or no? Or they're going to say, you have a van, or, where do you mostly work? Or I saw a dog. This is This is what takes a lot of our time, right? I saw a dog running. Should I call you when I do? You're like, okay, right? Yeah.
I'm very familiar with phone work, 100 phone calls, maybe 4 people. Now, in this day and age where most people have a message on their phone, would you then go ahead and leave a message that you called?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would. And the message would be very short. I'm with Urban Underdogs, okay? I'm calling to invite you to be part of what we do because I know you care about animals. Check us out online, www.urbanunderdogs.org. You're still not going to, it's just 90% of people aren't going to do anything with it. Right. All you need is, see, we're really kind of a little bit needle in a haystack. All we're looking at is here. That's why you can see, though, your better bet is to go to people that you already know. Because here you have that, you go from 5% to 50%. Right? Then you have direct mail. People say to me all the time, oh, direct mail is dead. Direct mail is not even sick. Direct mail is still, right now, the most common way people make a donation, right? It won't be. This will not always be true. And in fact, in a few years, it probably won't be. And online is really catching up. But people kind of you have these online gurus who just love everything online. But, they're like, it's growing by 30% a year. But you got to remember, the first time anyone made a donation online, that first gift, that was 100% growth in online giving. 0 to 1. So, really, and those of you who live in kind of rural communities, sometimes people really aren't online, they really do. And those of you who have a slightly older donor base, I'm working with an organization right now, the median age of their donors, same number above as below, the median age of their donors is 75. We do a lot, we're trying to recruit a younger set, and we do a lot of social media, but the donors, the really big, solid donors who give really big gifts year after year, are all dealt with by paper. You cannot be paper-free. Until the last baby boomer is dead, you are stuck with paper, okay, for some of your donors. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead. You won't break it.
So you mentioned that people don't like talking on the phone as much, and a tactic in marketing now is sending out text messages on sales or whatnot. What would you say about sending out text message asks?
People have experimented with that, and some have had very good luck with it. I would say the real place where you see it working very well is around elections. And I think people haven't had as good luck with it in just regular fundraising. But texting is more and more people are getting comfortable with it. Some people who pay per message are a little irritated by it, so kind of depends. A big problem I think most of us have is it's hard to get somebody's phone number. That's really, often we don't have that. I just want to spend 1 minute, and then we're going to take a break on this one on special events. So special events, I would say, if you were to name what is the slowest and most stupid way to raise money, I would say writing to the government, okay, right now. But second to that would be an event, honestly. But why would I, but I love it, but at the same time, I love events. I love events. And everywhere I've gone in the world, I've taught fundraising all over the world, the universal language is events. When you ask people, how did you raise money for this? We had an event. We had this event or that event. It is what everybody knows. The first cave person to come out of the cave and say, we've got to fix up the playground since the Tyrannosaurus Rex ruined it, they undoubtedly had a barbecue. It's just like, this is the oldest form of fundraising. It's the most popular. People love it. Even the shyest person will agree to be on the events committee, so it's amazing. So why is it the worst way to actually raise money? When raising money is your only goal, it is the worst way. But why is that? It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money, right? And a return on an event, 50 cents on the dollar is a very good return on an event. That's, they cost a lot of money. They're enormously risky, right? I was just, a friend of mine was just in Colorado recently when and they were going to have a big event, and then that cyclone storm, and it wasn't but that huge storm, the event had to be canceled. There's always things that happen. Something goes wrong. So there a lot of effort on one day. I even think that's about these events, these virtual events, Big Give. If for example, if we had today, it turns out that Trump decided to invade Venezuela, that would push this whole big give right out of the news. And you put all that emphasis on one day is very, very risky. Okay? What do events do well, though? Why would you do them, and why would I encourage all of you to have some events? You get your name out there, what else?
Strengthen your relationship with existing people.
Yes. You strengthen relationship with existing people. Some of those existing people bring new people. You meet them, what else? That's right. You get to talk about what you actually do in front of people you haven't, who wouldn't sit down one-on-one to do it. There are people that will come to an event that's kind of anonymous. They can come, they can see, they can leave. Okay? In rural communities, I've lived in a lot of rural communities, the special events the nonprofits put on are the entire social life of the community. What are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm doing the social services, and tomorrow night is the senior services, and the night after that is the housing group. And each, that's just there are no other clubs, there are no movie theaters. So we are, in a rural community, we are the social life of the community, and people appreciate it. So events are great relationship builders, they're great education, they're great for visibility. In fact, they're great for every single thing you want to do in fundraising, except raise money. And even when they raise money, let's say even an event like, there's an event in San Francisco that nets $1 million, called the Black and White Ball. It's put on by the Symphony. It nets $1 million, net. There are a lot faster ways to get $1 million than make a bunch of people walk around wearing black and white and spaghetti-stamped dresses in the fog, freezing their butts off, and pretending to have fun. There is just a lot faster ways to get it. Like, for example, to ask one person who has $1 million to give it to you. Okay? So really think about your events. Events, though, are also, the other reason I like them is they're great training grounds for fundraisers. A lot of people will agree to be on the event committee, and they would never agree to be on the major gifts committee, but later they will move in that direction. So end of this, and then we'll take a break, use strategies for what they are designed to do, and use them properly. And then each of you can find a home in one of the strategies that you're using. So it is now, by my watch, I'm so old-fashioned I have a watch, 25 to 11. So let's come back, and we're going off my watch because there's no clock, of course, because this is a casino. There's no clock in here. So let's come back at 10 minutes to 11 by my watch. Yeah, you're going to take your watch with you and sell it to somebody.